really diving into the tedious part of this build, which is blending it all together and making it look right. And now we're kind of at the part where I gotta fix all my mistakes. There was some sort of miscalculation, and now we have this big gap between the B-pillar and the quarter panel. When we cut the roof and cut it back to fit it on the car, we ended up cutting too much. And I can sit here and moan about it or bite my lip and just fill it. This is kind of how you learn, and I'm just gonna do my best. So as you can tell, I got a main chunk of the body work done. Now, I didn't film most of it, partly because body work and all the body filler dust is kind of bad for the camera, and also because I really struggle with body filler. It's not really my strong suit, and I really just needed to focus. I've been grinding really hard on this, and I'm still convinced it's gonna turn out really bad, and that kind of just is unfortunate, but I'm just doing my best. Anyway, enough rambling. As you can see, I got the roof covered in a primer. This is a filler primer, and this is going to allow me to kind of smoothen out what's there. By spraying the primer, it's also making all the imperfections pop out more, so I can use a glazing putty and kind of chase some of those down and like clean up a bunch of areas that are a little uneven or rough or whatever. It kind of gives a uniform color and a sheen to it that I can kind of work off of. And once all that's done, I still got to do all the body work on the rest of the car. So like little dings and damaged spots on like the door and the trunk lid, anything like that, I'll have to do. Also, when my spoiler, because I got a Series 4 Sport spoiler and a roof spoiler coming, those might need some body work as well once they get here. I don't know, it'll depend. So there's still plenty to do in terms of body filler. Now, like I said before, I'm not good at body work. I'm also not a fabricator. So if you are a fabricator or do body work, you would probably have been cringing this whole episode, and I'm sorry. I've been kind of taught in these areas, but I'm not well practiced, and it shows. And unfortunately, I just don't think the body work is going to excel on this car. I think it's gonna be subpar. I'm sure on camera it looks fine. I'm sure on pictures and stuff it's gonna look great. And I'm sure a lot of people aren't gonna notice, and it's really not gonna be a big deal. But it is probably gonna bother me. I've worked really hard, or I'd like to think that I've worked hard to try and get this straight, to try and get it looking decent, and I just feel like I have fallen short. And maybe I'm kind of being hard on myself because I've never taken on a body work project this big. I've done my Subaru, which was a lot of body work, but I covered in bed liner, and I just didn't care. It was really bad. That thing looked like a strip of bacon. I don't want this to. I mean, yeah, it's gonna be a drift car. Yeah, the likelihood of me smashing in a door or like banging it up is high. I wanna do that. I don't wanna be afraid to drive this car because it's too nice. But at the same time, I have expectations for myself, and I feel like other people have expectations for me to do better, to achieve a higher quality with this car that I just don't think it's gonna get. And it sucks, but at the same time, I can't just sit here and take forever. You know, I've spent like 4 weekends trying to do body work on this car, and I feel like I've done my best. You know, I've learned a lot, I've gotten a lot better. I also got better at like welding and stuff with this, and you know, this whole car is a learning experience. At the end of the day, I just want to do better than my last car, and I want my next car to be better than this. I just gotta stay positive and like take all the good out of it and just kind of accept the bad as what it is. Just do my best. At the end of the day, that's what's important, and I think it'll be just fine, but I'm being overcritical of myself for sure. Yes, I'm the guy that has a running and driving FC, and I still turn it into a gigantic yard sale just begging to be parted out, but it's okay, it's okay. So the paint on the main part of the chassis is now done. To professional, this is probably a pretty subpar job, but for me, for my skill set, paint from Amazon, a Harbor Freight paint gun, I'm actually really impressed with how it turned out. I set pretty low expectations, but I definitely exceeded those expectations, so that's pretty good. Like literally the font on this paint is like meme template font. Like if that doesn't say cheap, then I don't know what does. I set pretty low expectations, but I definitely exceeded them, and it needs a wet sand and a buff for sure. There's a lot of orange peel, but I was able to get good coverage. I put a full gallon on it, and it looks pretty good. And a lot of the spots, most of the spots I did body work is looking really good. I was really worried about those B-pillars and that transition, but I'm definitely satisfied with how they turned out. For this car, it's gonna be plenty fine, plenty fine. And the color looks good too. It's a really deep black. It's kind of weird seeing this car with good paint because I've owned it for a couple of years with terrible paint. But yeah, now I got to do all of the rest of the stuff. Mirrors, doors, trunk, hood, some molding, trunk spoiler, roof spoiler, gas cap or fuel door. All that stuff has still got to get done. Let it cure, put it back together.